Alright guys, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Cologne Korea and Taiwanese qualifiers, as we now have our final series on the way. It's going to be between KassiA and KassiA, KassiA having just previously beaten Seoulki, and the reason we cast this one is because all the other ones are either underway or have already finished. Curious was able to defeat his opponent 2-0, so he moves on to tomorrow. Surprise, surprise. He seems to do this every single Intel Extreme Masters qualifier. And then also Classic was able to defeat his opponent as well at 2-0. So Classic defeated Hero, and then Curious defeated Trend. We're also waiting on the results of Revival versus Rain, which is currently underway. So now it's KassiA versus KassiA, as we load up onto Frost for the first map here between this Terran and this Zerg. KassiA also playing in Pro League quite a bit, but for now, guys, we can jump into game number 1 for this final best of 3 of the day. A big thanks for joining me today, guys. Solo casting, actually, it's my throat feels rusty, I must admit. I clearly haven't done that much solo casting in 2014. I've done like one. But in 2013, I was a weathered veteran of the solo cast. Now not so much, so need to get back into the flow of things. But indeed, we do have KassiA spawning down to the bottom left. And up to the top right, we have Mr. KassiA, who plays some pretty nifty mech styles. Some cool mech play against his previous Zerg opponent. And I will apologize again for cursing Seoulki. That was not good of me. But there you have it. Seoulki was defeated. Anyway, KassiA. I've seen a few games of his from Pro League, but not too much that I can fully recall. As I imagine KassiA is just going to open up in exactly the same fashion as to how we've seen him open up in the past against his previous opponent. And all in all, I think that KassiA probably stands here as the favourite after defeating Seoulki. It was always going to be very difficult for Seoulki to make those Swarm hosts work on Yonsu in game number 2. And then game number 3, KassiA did very well for himself as well. But this is the bigger map. This is the map where KassiA lost to Seoulki. So it can always be a little bit scary as to what may happen when it comes to this kind of map. And I'm wondering, now that I think about it, how KassiA is going to play this out, because realistically I haven't seen too much of KassiA's ZVT. I don't think he'll conform to the exact same style that we saw Seoulki play. I think there'll be a little more flair from KassiA's side of things, and I would like to see that. I would like to see that indeed. Now, the only games that I can really recall of KassiA from Pro League have been against Protoss. So this also gives rise as to why I can't really recall his ZVT. I think it was against Sora and I can't quite remember who else it was. I think Sora was one of them. But the Reaper has got in here for KassiA. He's not going to get a drone just yet. Needs to save this drone. Oh, actually does. Wow. Okay. So, didn't really have too many minerals there to build anything with that drone. It would have been very, very close. The Reaper doing a lot of work already here for KassiA. And I think the structure of Jin Green Wings and the players that they now have on their team, with people like Maru and SOS being there, I think it's become such a well-rounded team compared to where we saw it with Team A and it not really having too much success. Now that it is Jin Green Wings, it seems so much more formidable. Even a player like KassiA here, who didn't really have too much of a reputation before, is making a bit more of a name for himself and playing really, really solid games. Speed's on the way for KassiA, and he's grabbing himself his third base as well. With that starport about to finish up for Cure. As I said, the most standard of standard plays, never really going to deviate from the Reaper, Hellions, and then into the starport for Banshees. And in the end, KassiA, right now, only has 3 queens out. I would like to see more queens added on. As I do like the bigger queen style play. But 3 overlords coming out at the same time. Quite the curious notion for a second there. Up until the point where he starts getting 5 drones out at a time. Does not have any lava, so to speak of, just yet. So once he gets a little bit more lava, those 3 overlords do free him up quite a bit of supply to get some lings out to make sure that this small little force does get pushed away. But already we're seeing that he scouted in here, he saw the cloak, he saw everything that he needs to see to be able to push that away. But Cure really doesn't care a whole lot about that. There's going to be those lings on the way, as that supply was freed up here for KassiA. But he lost an overlord in the process, so maybe this overlord here could have been started a little bit quicker. It doesn't quite supply block him, but it's certainly getting up there, especially since he has 4 extra lava that would have ended up being in a supply block situation. But it ends up being pretty smooth, it does. And double armoring once again for Cure, so it's mech time. Yeah, for mech. And double evolution chamber here for KassiA. So sport crawlers have already been added on to push away those banshees. We have 1 down here that tried to transition to the 3rd, and the creep spread for KassiA very aggressively towards 3rd base is going to work out well for him. How many banshee kills are we going to be able to get here? Just 1 so far. He's hunting down this 1 drone that is a little bit weaker, and does manage to get it. So very nicely done there. 7 worker kills so far. Wow, Cure is really playing some phenomenal TVZ, I've got to say. Because when his transition comes for the mech, if you are not prepared for it, you are going to have a lot of trouble. You really are. And now we can see KassiA is already looking to go for melee and carapace upgrades. Something that may not work out for him too well against something like Thor Hellbat if he continues on with it. Now he may get very, very aggressive with his gas income, try and take a 4th base, go to gas super fast with that, and then push his way all the way up to some kind of hive play for Ultralisks, but well, he's got to be careful about this first. The Hellions getting into a really good spot there for a second. A lot of those Zerglings will get traded away. He's lost the majority of the Hellions as well as the Reapers for a few more worker kills. Let's say that got 5 over here, as the Banshee's still being very annoying, but the Overseer does provide the vision required. And the 8 drones are being replenished, so he's going to have good economy over these 3 bases. This second Banshee has been spotted, so should be able to deal with that. He hasn't actually spread creep that aggressively between the main and natural, but in the end, because of how these bases work out on this map, it's not really the longest of distances to traverse for a queen off creep. Baneling nest as well, so Ling, Baneling, I guess it's going to be into Mutalisk. But I'm not really sure how well it's going to work out. Of course, Ling, Baneling against some kind of more heavy bio play would work out quite nicely. That scared me to death. I don't know if you guys just heard that as well, but I didn't change the sound pack from Korean, so I was just like, well, I've not really played with the Korean sound pack before, and that scared me. All right, Roach Warren. This all seems a bit middle of the road right now for KassiA. He's going to try and get us around on these Hellions, but Cure's microing very, very well, and 2-2 is already on the way for Cure. So again, he's gathering a lot of momentum with his mech play. A lot of Hellbats in production. And that one Hellion manages to sneak out of those Zerglings. Wow. But in the end, Thors are already here. There's the infestation pit. And there we have the 4th base. Now, Cure, once again, it's always a little bit harder on this map to hit that window where the swarm host would want to be coming out or anything like that. The Spire's going to get added on for KassiA as well, so it is relatively similar to what we were seeing from Sulky. The only difference is a bit of a big swell of roaches before to hold on, and then maybe deny some kind of aggression that would come along. But this game is certainly going to continue for quite a while, as we already have another 2 command centers going down for Cure. He's just making sure that his macro is going to be nice and steady, nice and fluid. But the Hive already begins here for KassiA. The Hive this quickly is a difference. He already had melee upgrades. I don't think that Thors are going to have too much trouble mashing their way through Ultralisks if they were to come along. And it's going to be the Hydralisk then. KassiA, you crazy man. He's just going for everything at this point. And he's going to try and hold his opponent at bay via this route. Now, the way in which KassiA played out game number 1 against Sulky, he was always so pinned back all the time, like all the time by those Mutalisks, that it was hard for him to really do anything. This game, though, we are going to see a different Cure, because Cure's going to get the mobility and freedom to move out pretty soon once he maxes. And then why not try and just trundle across the map? The creep spread from KassiA hasn't been as strong as we saw it from Sulky. Therefore, it's going to be easier for Cure to push across. Those Hellbats didn't do too much, though. So that was a nice shutdown there from KassiA. And he has plenty of vision across this side of the map as well, in terms of preparation with the Overlords for when his opponent will want to move forwards. But army supplies now, 99 to 88. And once this 3-3 on the way here again for the mech, means that this army is going to be very strong indeed. And also there is the ability to transition into that Skyplay if he so sees it. Or feels for it. But KassiA is getting another base up at the top left. We have Roaches heading on around to try and put on some aggression. Always a good position, but the barracks that he doesn't particularly need is spotting for him over there. And now this army begins to move. The Roaches are going to act as the Mutalisks would have done for Sulky, and get themselves a Sense Tower. That's a nice pickup. I really like that, even if it's just for the Sense Tower, even if that's all he gets. But starts a missile turret burning down. And these Roaches are not going to have the best of times. He burrows 2, but they are in range of that missile turret, so... But he's also found a bit of the base up at the top left. The funny thing is about, setting a missile turret burning down is that there's a little guy in there, and as the missile turret's burning down, he just, like, sits in there and doesn't really care too much. He's like, whatever. And where does he go when a missile turret dies? He should turn into a Marine. That's what should happen. That would be sick. Alright. Anyway, I digress. Alright, so muscular augment's on the way for Hydralisks, but the mech army now finds itself situated right next to this expansion. And no, the drones. Well, I guess they get away. But if those siege tanks had just turned around and shot 2 volleys at those guys, then that would have been a lot of death. And Cure is going to end up losing this base. He's basically just going to pop up other bases absolutely everywhere. But look at his supply count right now. It's 116 army supply to 50. Yes, the Roaches catch a few units at the back, but those siege tanks turn around instantly and barrage those Roaches. So difficult for them to really make themselves survive against that kind of firepower. 13 Mutalisks now on the way. Alright. So this game is going to continue on, but Cure... I think Cure is in a very comfortable position right now to transition onto maybe more starports. And then... oh, he does already have the starports. Never mind. I expected, maybe more Ravens coming out. But this army is still so strong. the Vikings with 3-3 are able to trade against the Mutalisks pretty nicely. And that's one of the real strengths of mech compared to where it used to be. Like, you can go for Hellbat, Thor, Siege Tank with the previous mech upgrades that didn't benefit air, and then they would be, you know, you'd have to really kind of have more Thors in your mix for the anti-air. But now, because Vikings also get 3-3 as well with those upgrades, it makes it so difficult for these Mutalisks to actually push in and try and snipe something. There you go, GG. Kyo takes game number 1, and KassiA knew he was pretty much dead. All right, so that was much quicker than we saw the game number 1 from Sulky end up. Kyo really took command of that very nicely. And now we wait for game number 2 between Kyo and KassiA. Let's just quickly update the brackets and have a look, see if we can get the update. Okay, so Rain was able to beat Revival, which means that we have our three of 4 players determined. Kyo is 1 game away as well from advancing on. So this is our final bracket pretty much right here. Rain, Classic, Curious, and we're waiting just now for the winner of Kyo versus KassiA. Alright, let's just hop back into the game now and see if we have our invite for game number 2. KassiA may be evaluating that previous game, but he's already invited me. Habitation Station will be our potential final map if Kyo is able to take the series 2-0. And I like his odds here if he's going to go for mech again. Kyo's mech's really cool. Really, really strong. GLGL. Alright, so Habitation Station, it's the first time we've actually cast this map during this qualifier at least. Not too many games we've cast due to a little bit of downtime that we had at the beginning of the broadcast, thanks to a lovely little patch that just came in. But all of that is fixed. Tomorrow we will have no downtime. I'm pretty sure that tomorrow is a double elimination bracket as well for the players trying to advance on to Intel Extreme Masters Cologne. But this is how it goes at the Intel Extreme Masters. The winner or winners of stage number 2 in the Asian region generally have very, very good shots at winning the whole thing when it comes to going to the Intel Extreme Masters. So these qualifiers are a very, very important thing when it comes to the Intel Extreme Masters circuit. So guys, let's jump into game number 2 as we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner our red Zerg. It is KassiA for Team Prime. That was interesting. And up to the top left, we have currently 1 game up as our blue Terran. He is Jinair, Green Wings, Kyo. And let's get underway. Habitation Station, a map that I do enjoy playing on. That might be because I'm laddering as Protoss right now, and I feel that I am invincible. It's very difficult to break photon overcharge, etc. Or it can be at least. If you're set up properly, that is. And nice main to defend, nice natural to defend. The natural, especially with this ramp, is pretty nice to defend. The only one thing I have a problem with sometimes as a Protoss is that the ramp is, you know, bigger than 1 force field. So I'm like, I have to throw down 2 force fields. Oh no. But anyway, this is not a Protoss matchup. I shall shut up about Protoss. We have the reactor on the way, refinery on the way again here for Kyo. So just straight to the Reapers. And Reapers are a little bit harder to make work on this map specifically. There's not really too much room to jump into the main. You have to go around the back here and try and exploit those areas. This is really the only area that you properly have to jump around in. Of course you do have a little bit of area to make it happen at this natural, but not too much. So I would say Reapers are... This map is one of the harder maps for Reapers to really do anything. KassiA sent a drone all the way over there to see what was going on. I guess he just wanted to get in and get notification of the gas. But a drone scout isn't something I was really expecting here from KassiA, especially on a map that is so easy to scout on with overlords. Your bases are very close together. Obviously, you know where your opponent spawns. It's only a 1v1 map, and then your overlord can quite happily get out of the base and just sit around in the dead space on the left-hand side. So, was not expecting drone. I guess maybe he was trying to... Oh wait, he went around all the bottom side as well, didn't he? So I guess he was trying to spot any kind of proxy shenaniganry, which does make a lot more sense now that I look at it. Anyway, so first Reaper's going to head on in and mosey on around. There's a few Lings in production. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get any drones if he controls it properly. He's trying to get to that extractor, and I was actually using it for combat there, and he does get one drone already. So good job by Cure. Cure's Reapers are pretty efficient. And very well controlled, gotta say. Trying to work on another Ling, but doesn't really do too much with it. And the factory's going to be added on as well. So surprise, surprise, the same build. We've seen it 5 games in a row. Why stop now? Wait a minute. Did we see it 5 games in a row? Or did he try for a double factory play? I think he tried for a double factory play in one of the games, didn't he? Anyway, whatever. Okay, so factory was actually relocating into a really odd spot there. I think he was probably wanting to send the barracks over there and then land the factory over here. So there we go. That was a little mishap, but not too much. It does get corrected very, very quickly. As for right now, oopsies, my camera went a little bit pear-shaped. He's going to establish himself the gold base, and as a meching player on this map specifically, if we see Cure play exactly the same build that he has been doing in the past couple of games. Now, his third base isn't as easy to take as it is on some others. If we see KassiA be a bit more aggressive than he was in the previous game, but if he can establish this area, shutting down the Zerg's third base is very, very easy. Very easy indeed. So KassiA is going to have to be extremely mindful of that. And certainly not transfer drones over to that gold base too quickly, because the Reapers and Hellions get situated in between those two bases, and it can be absolutely treacherous to really make anything happen. Reaper's going to soak up a little bit of the damage here, whilst once again this dance continues. And there is a Banshee in production, again, with Cloak, which has already been spotted. So, you know, I mean, KassiA is pretty much getting confirmation of what he already knew at this point. Because Cure just doesn't actually deviate from this build. But because it's so solid, because it's so strong, like, why would you need to actually deviate? Alright, well, these Hellions are going to actually come along with this as well. So he sends his... he sends his 3 queens to defend the gold base. This is an interesting move. And one that, you know, absolutely needed to happen if he wants to transfer drones over there earlier, because he didn't have a Spore Crawler up there in time to deal with that Banshee. But at the same time now, this does leave his main a little bit vulnerable. Oh, but he's got 20 Zerglings about to pop, so KassiA's well prepared for something like that. So, and the gold base is pretty well defended. Where did that Banshee go? Oh, it's in the middle here. It's flying around trying to get Zergling kills, but it's not the most efficient of uses. As once again, we have double armory going down for Cure. He does get away with these double armory plays very, very fast, and it's really delightful to see. Just sitting out of range of that poor Spore Crawler, so it can't really do any damage. Maybe if those queens were to stray on forwards a little bit, those Hellions and Reapers would get some damage done from the low ground. But the Lings have already gone for a massive, massive run-by, doing some damage to the SCVs in this natural. Can't necessarily get up into the main because of the secondary wall. But the Hellions have to be brought back, and this gives KassiA a little bit of breathing room. Now, was that worth it in the end? 10 workers, yeah, not too bad. 55 workers to 35 right now. The double Banshees are going to have to make up for that. This is the Rotoran whirring away with the Reconstitution. But Banshees, can you do anything They've got a few kills themselves, so not too bad. And it looked as if he was heading away there for a second, but he decides to stick around. There's another Banshee over here that could try and poke in against some of those drones that are on the extremity of these gold patches. I don't think they're going to get a whole lot. Third base is going to be established. He's not looking to establish the gold base. It's a little bit tricky, considering how close it is to your opponent. But this base, in turn, can be hard to defend if your opponent commits to quite a few lings, just goes straight around the bottom left of this base, of this map, and then pushes on from there. You need some very, very good building placement around this whole third base to really shut down that if you want to continue aggressive pushes. Of course, that being said, the second and natural here, if you situate your army in this middle location, it's not too far for the army to move from one base to another. So, but this certainly is going to go a little bit longer. And KassiA is realizing some of the slight mistakes, or slight indifferences that he had in game number 1. The infestation pit is a little bit quicker here, as is the Hydralisk Den. But I don't know if he's going to get too much use out of it. We'll see going on. 3 Banshees with 4 kills, 5 kills, 1 kill. So the total of which is pretty much drones. He got 1 Zergling, and then the rest have been exclusively kills on drones. And he did drop a scam. I think it's down to the bottom right. No, it was actually in the main. He sees the hive morphing in, as well as the infestation pit and Hydralisk Den done. So, let's say, roaches and anything that can come around that bottom left-hand corner can normally get something done down there, but Cure is well on top of that. He's actually trading away Banshees for Queens. And actually, I mean, that wasn't too bad. 2 Queens for 1 Banshee. If those Banshees can stick around and try and find some damage elsewhere, then good on them. He's already got 14 worker kills now, going up to 60. And he finds drones that on these gas geysers that are very, very vulnerable. And he tries to evacuate out with those poor little drones as well, which I think led to more deaths than it would have been if he'd have just put them in a whole position around the spore crawler. Only 1 though, only 1. So the hive's about to finish here for KassiA. As here is 2-2. Burrow finished as well, which means that these Banshees, if they go into any base and they start killing off drones, all he has to do is burrow them, then he forces his opponent to waste a scan, if that is something that he's so inclined to do. Roaches will get an SCV in, trundle off home. Little Hellbats can't keep up with those guys. But now the 2-2 is about to finish, and also the Viking numbers are rising, so the army is becoming more and more formidable as time goes on here for Cure. I actually might start playing a bit more Terran now that mech is seemingly very viable in this matchup. So I'm not a huge fan of Bio. Like, playing Bio, I'm not a huge fan of it. I do like playing mech if I can get away with it. But I haven't had a Terran for a while, so it might be really, really bad. But yeah, anyway. So the Spire's about to finish up as well. Well, actually, it's just gone down. I make a slight mistake there, but Hydralisks will push away those 2 Vikings. But they already did really what they wanted to do. All they wanted to do is maybe get 1 or 2 Overlord kills. That's fine. Now KassiA's going to commit to Vipers to try and land good Blinding Clouds on this army. And that may be able to do what it needs. But Cure is soon to push out. Now, what does KassiA actually have to complement those Vipers? Right now it's 113 armor supply against 32 units. 26 Roaches and 8 Hydras. Well, he takes a little bit of damage there. Needs to throw down a Blinding Cloud on those 2 Siege Tanks. That they won't do a whole lot from that point on, but there's a lot behind this. Not too bad Blinding Clouds in some of these Siege Tanks, but there's still more to help on out. The Hellbats did shoo this away as well. And now KassiA, I mean, his army supply just there, it plummeted realistically. He lost like 10 Roaches for really not killing too much. What, he killed 2 Siege Tanks for that? But that's about it. And he's actually just going to push straight on into this. He killed off those Vipers very, very quickly. And now without those... Where are the Vipers? Did they go back for energy? Yeah, they did. Okay. This is really hard for KassiA. The one way I've seen this combated in the past is like quite a few Vipers and then massive ducks into Hydralisks, but I don't think that Cure is ever going to let that happen. And if he grabs this middle ground, then God forbid this goal base, it's not going to be mining for much longer. But at the same time, KassiA is going to try the scenic route. He's going to go around, maybe try and cut off some of these reinforcements, but he takes a big volley of damage from just one siege tank alone. And that third base has had to evacuate. Meanwhile, Roaches and Hydralisks heading up to this planetary fortress. It doesn't cancel and he has to raise. He could put some SCVs in there to save them off, but the foresight here, just a little bit slower for Cure as he's focusing all of his attention on this frontal assault. He knows that if he can shut down this location, shut down the third base, which he already has done, he should be in a good spot. The command center actually burns down. Rubble falls into space, but has to retreat on out from that location. Doesn't want to get sandwiched between the swarm hosts and Roaches and Hydras. Kills a few of them on the retreat out as well, which is a good trade there for Cure. Also, plenty of command centers down to this bottom left-hand side, and he's adding on those starports to get some Ravens out, as well as even more Vikings. But now, can't trade against that, has to run away. Ah! Getting off creep. Get off creep. Then the Locusts can't really chase you down all too well. These poor little siege tanks that got shoved into this ramp did take quite a bit of damage. The Overseer is going to fall very, very quickly. He needs to keep those Vikings actually alive, though. Has 10 in total, but some of them were getting bolted down by those Hydralisks. And looks like he's actually going to go for an engagement here. He really needs to siege up and try and rain down some havoc on some of those units. Get some on the retreat out. But some of those Locusts managed to tickle away at some of those siege tanks. Meanwhile, a little bit of a poke down here for Cure. Noticeably, Cure hasn't been getting Blue Flame with his Hellbats. Unless he was going for, you know, a Blue Flame opener. Doesn't really see Blue Flame as something of a necessity. But if you think about it, the only way that we've been seeing the Zergs really try and combat this style is via Mutalisks as well as Locusts and Roach and Hydra or whatever they want to do. And in the end, I mean, how well is Blue Flame really going to work against that? There's not too many light units in that composition, apart from the Hydras, which are always going to run back to their shield bearers that are the Roaches. So, Blue Flame, in the grand scheme of things, unless you're looking to do a lot of drone harass, is a little bit of a luxury that he doesn't really need. Army supplies right now, 128 to 100. Cure still playing out this mech very, very well. And KassiA is going to have to retreat on out. He drops down another scan. Where was it? It was right here. Just to spot if that gold base was up and running. Doesn't want to lose any Vikings. But certainly wants to send those Banshees forwards to put on some hurt. And yet another location where he can clean up some of this creep. Nice fungal actually does catch one of those Banshees, or in fact the second one as well, but doesn't kill it off fully. And there is another base down to the bottom left that's trying to go up, but there is a little Roach down there. So good moves by KassiA to burrow that and make sure his opponent can't get it up too easily. Anyway, Cure now putting on some harassment down to the south. Drops the fungal, reveals those Banshees, and they are not long for this world. Doesn't want to stray forward with any more units. And wow, actually that one Banshee survives with 1 health. The Cure now through the middle of the map. I mean, he has 3-3. And he did kill this base. So if he pushes forwards and actually catches some of these swarm hosts, that's a big deal. Gets 2 of them. Nice trade-off. Just scans galore. Cure knows that if he can just push forwards and shut that down, then all is going to be well. He's adding on even more production facilities now. So he's going to be going up to a lot there. But looks like, well, KassiA's going to try and push forward. He loses so many roaches. One or two infestors, not too much. But the infested Terrans really don't do anything for him. The Ravens now being added on. Add on the tech labs. Get out those Ravens. It's Raven time, Cure. He has so many possibilities to transition into when it comes to the Ravens. And then if the game goes really long, then the battle cruisers. But KassiA, I mean, you could just stick with Ravens for a long, long time. And Hunter Seeker missiles cause all sorts of problems for KassiA. But Cure right now, still battling this out. Ton of locusts just end up plummeting, and there was a really nice fungal there to catch a few of those Vikings, but you can't quite easily chain this, as those siege tanks will zone him out really nicely. Very, very good fungal once again, really weakening a lot of these Vikings, but there's SCVs underneath to repair. So Cure's army is constantly trading and effectively, and KassiA has no answer. He keeps trying to land the fungals on these Vikings, but it's not doing anything. Whilst Cure slowly snakes his way towards these bases, the Locusts are going to try and push forwards again, but they get obliterated in the in everything. This hatchery's just going to plummet. 28 Mutalisks, 29 Mutalisks now are going to be the answer for Cure. But if a few of these Hunter Seeker missiles find their mark, and if the Vikings control themselves properly, the Mutalisks aren't going to have a hope. They're going to have to go for some weird, wonky base trade that I don't think is going to work either. And now the slow assault of all these bases that are so important to KassiA begins. Cure has played this game out brilliantly. Once again, slowly, painstakingly pushing himself towards the vital mining bases of KassiA. We even have point defense drones down. So the Mutalisks, they're going to try and ransack a lot of the production facilities we see of Cure, but the Vikings and Ravens, they're going to come back and really cause a big, big headache. Where did he drop those scans just then as well? And, well, he kills a few factories, but the production's still very strong for him. I mean, watch how fast these Mutalisks end up falling. Despite having 2-2 upgrades against 3-3 Vikings, the Vikings actually hold their own pretty well, especially if he has point defense drones or a Hunter Seeker missile in here somewhere. But the Vikings are just getting ample trades. He's separated off siege tanks in multiple locations now, just to trade off these extra bases that would try and go up. But this is, I mean, one of those siege tanks had 32 kills. Of course, they were majoritively locusts. But KassiA just does not have the mineral income to really shut down the mech army as well as the Vikings. Unit counts, 39 drones to 60. There's not that many siege tanks actually out here for Cure, so he wants to replenish those numbers quickly. But look at the production tab. That really does speak volumes. The one nice thing that we're seeing here from KassiA is that he does bag those Vikings. So very, very good pickup there by him. But if we see Cure now, just adding on a lot of Banshees, a lot of Vikings as well, his air armada is going to absolutely run over what we're seeing from KassiA. KassiA with Infestors as well as Swarm Hosts, that's pretty much all he has in his army. There's 5 Mutalisks out, but what are they ever going to do? Whilst we have this base down here mining for him, look how far Cure is ahead in terms of that income. KassiA having a bit of a tough time. He's on the verge of elimination. There you go, GG. Cure advances on to stage number 2. And that is going to do it here for our first day of Korea and Taiwanese qualifiers. And that does it for our Korean qualifiers entirely. So tomorrow is our Asian stage number 2 qualifier. And from today, we have Rain, Classic, Cure, and Curious advancing on. Actually, it's a shame how the brackets worked out, because it could have been Cure versus Curious now if only 2 had advanced on from this stage. So Cure versus Curious would have been a pretty cool match, I gotta say, because Curious has wowed me in the past with his TVZ and the Intel Extreme Masters tournaments. Cure advances on from here, but that is not updated just yet. And then Rain and Classic and Curious. So that's our 4 advancing on to tomorrow. So that leaves me with only one thing to do. I tell you to join us tomorrow at 9 AM Central European time. for some qualifiers for the Intel Extreme Masters. As we have, wait a minute, if I get myself Liquipedia and click on this one, alright, I can find out very, very swiftly exactly who's going to be playing tomorrow. Okay, so it's going to be Rain Classic, Cure, and Curious. Our qualifiers from China are XY, Cloudy, Interwind, and Zhao Wei. I'm going to say that's Zhao Wei. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that okay-ish. And then our invites are SOS, Maru, and Jaedong. There is supposed to be a fourth invite in there, but I'm not quite sure who that is. Also, there's the Southeast Asian qualifiers, which 4 players will advance from. So we're going to have 16 players tomorrow in a double elimination bracket to see which 2 advance on to Cologne. So without further ado, guys, that's going to wrap things up from me here today. If you'd like to check out more of what I do, and as well as get notifications as to when I go live, please check me out at Kaelaris on Twitter, Kaelaris, and I shall see you tomorrow bright and early